So what I wanted to do today is talk about my transition from default to deliberate life. So I've posted a few times, little snippets here and there, but never really told the whole story and how I got to where I am today. So thought this would be a good opportunity to do that. And when I sort of look way back, so I'm obviously not from England, even though I've lived here for quite a long time. I'm from Northern Ireland. And after uni, like quite a lot of people that I know anyway, I sort of didn't really know what the hell I was doing with my life. I did a Spanish and business degree because I enjoyed it, but wasn't sure what was next for me. Had no real plan after that, but I sort of just went through the default journey in life, ticking the boxes. School, uni, move somewhere and get a job. But I hadn't really worked out exactly what that was, and that's totally fine. Like one of my friends worked in a advertising agency, so I ended up working in advertising. I enjoyed the buzz, I enjoyed the environment, I enjoyed the people that were there. And actually moving to London in comparison to living in a small town in Northern Ireland literally blew my mind. So massively enjoyed that. And like that first job was a great education for me in work, right? Like what the hell actually work was, and I don't regret it in any way. But I was never really bought into working in advertising. I didn't really enjoy it hugely. And I sort of knew that after like a year and 18 months. It just wasn't necessarily for me. I didn't enjoy the role I was in and the actual work that we were doing. But at that point, right, like I'd moved to London a couple of years, it felt like a difficult thing to change. So, I tried applying for different jobs after that, but it just sort of seemed like the next route to do was, all right, we'll go to account manager, then we'll go to account director. And that default path was the path that you would go on. And I sort of jumped around after that, right? Like changing little bits and pieces, tried to focus on the things that I did like versus what I didn't. But ultimately, it was all in the same space. So I worked for Jamie Oliver's media company. I ended up setting up a couple of businesses on my own, some with investment, some with partners. But like when I reflect back on all of those things, it looks to the outside like it was a real deliberate move, right? It was a real step out of the ordinary, not just becoming an account manager, account director, that pathway or that career that was sort of laid out easily. But being completely honest with myself, I don't know whether any of those choices were actually mine, whether those were deliberate choices, or whether I just took the opportunity that was laid in front of me. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you need to look out for those opportunities and take them when they're there. That's, one of my life philosophies, like create those opportunities and have the courage to take them when they're presented to you. But only if you actually want to do them, right? Like only if it aligns with the life that you want to live or the choice that you want to make at that time. And when I look back, the first business I set up was more of a opportunity that was crafted by a couple of my co-founders, and I went along for the ride. Like I was a good fit to work with both of them, but did I actually really want to do it? Yeah, I was excited about this whole concept of building your own business, even though I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and it was a terrible move financially for me. But I liked the concept of it, but the actual business itself, that I like care massively, was it in a completely different space or was it in a similar space to the advertising that I knew I didn't like? It was in a similar space. And again, after that, when that business didn't work out, I was looking for freelance work and picked up a little bit. And again, an opportunity presented itself through an investor to create a model, and I was the right person to create that business, like with my experience, with my expertise. But again, looking back on it, did I actually really want to do that? Probably not, right? Like I was sucked in a path of default actions quite a lot, because ultimately it's the easier thing to do. And externally, it might have looked like I was making all of these deliberate moves, like I said, but internally, I know deep down that those were the default moves. Those weren't really the choices that I wanted to make, but I was either scared of making a different choice or going down a different path, or I didn't, like, to be honest, I didn't really know what the hell I wanted to do. So I found it really difficult to think about that. And the inevitability was that, like, all of these things were happening and all this stress and tension was building up inside me. Like, I knew that I wasn't on a path that was aligned with the life that I wanted. And I remember, like, distinctly this, like, idea in my mind. I was probably, I don't know, like 30, 31 maybe at the time. It's like, when you're 45 or 50, do you want to be doing this same thing? Like, is this the life that you want? And it scared the shit out of me, to be honest. It, like, really scared me. The thought that I'd be getting up, thinking about these businesses that I didn't like, day in, day out. It just wasn't a life that I wanted to have. But yet, I didn't take any action to change it. And I think it's like a common story, right? Like, I'm not beating myself up about it. It's like a normal thing to happen. But then there comes a point where you've got to make a change, right? Like, you've got to take some action to live deliberately if you want your life to be different. Like, I had this thing in my mind going, yeah, but something will turn up. You know, some other opportunity will present itself that will put me on a completely different path. And then everything will be all right. It'll work out for the best. And that's the default way of thinking, right? It's expecting the world to save you. It's expecting for something to drop in your lap. Oh, you'll win the lottery. Or someone will create this amazing opportunity for you that is completely different and completely aligned to how you want to live your life. Or something dramatic will happen that will change the course of your life without you having to do anything about it. But that's not how life works, really. And it's not how it didn't work for me. And while I was hoping for this, the stress was building up, right? I was stressed about being stressed. I knew that I was living a life that was completely out of alignment, that wasn't the life that I actually wanted. And it all sort of built up and got to a point on my birthday, 2019, right? So my 32nd birthday, where me and my wife have this tradition where we, like, celebrate everyone's birthday with a birthday breakfast, right? Like, we make a lot of effort, we put on a little crown, play Stevie Wonder's Happy Birthday, and make an amazing breakfast. It's a really nice thing, that tradition that we've done with our kids actually now as well. But when she brought in the breakfast, I was sort of sitting there with my crown on. She brought in a scotch egg with a candle in it instead of a cake, because I'm not that arsed about cakes. More into scotch eggs and sausage rolls if you ever want to buy me something. But anyway, she brings in this scotch egg with a candle, and for some reason I burst out crying. And it wasn't the scotch egg as the cake. It was, I don't know what it was, actually, to this day, to be honest. It was maybe just someone being nice to me, even though she was nice to me all the time. But it felt like a release valve was opened. I just couldn't hold it in any longer. And I just burst out crying, sobbing for, 5 or 10 minutes. And at that point, like, my body was obviously telling me that there was something going on here, right? Like, your body doesn't lie. I could feel the stress. I was getting sicker more. And that point was a real indication that I needed to take responsibility, right? Like, be a high agency person, like, happen to life and not letting life happen to me. I can't just coast. I can't just live the default and hope that things work out for the change. I've got to take responsibility, take control, and fucking do something, right? Like, do something different. take some action, live more deliberately if I want to get on this pathway. And so after that, I did do something, right? Like I researched lots of stuff. I looked into therapy. I spoke with the CBT person. I spoke with friends. I searched around for coaches and career coaches. And I found a coach, my first coach, Nejmi. And it was the first time that I really had like these open, honest conversations with someone, right? Like, of course, I talk to my wife, but it's hard to have those types of conversations with someone that's so close to you. Of course, they can help, but you can't spill all of the details, right? Like, you want someone objective to listen to you, to reflect back the words that you're saying, and to guide and help you, right? Like, Nejmi didn't tell me what to do in any way, but what he did do was open my eyes to possibilities that I couldn't see. Like, I was blinkered. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, so therefore I didn't take any action. But what we did over a few months was work out, what I give a shit about, like what I cared about, how I would want my life to look like, what my values were, what I'd like my day to day to look like. And slowly but surely, I implemented some of these deliberate actions. And as I took the actions, I felt more in control, right? I felt calm. I felt composed. I felt less stressed. I felt like I was on the pathway. I was doing something. And I get that with like loads of my clients as well. Usually the concept or just the action of paying money and saying that they're going to work with me for 3, 6, 9 months, a year, whatever, makes them feel immediately better because they're actually doing something. They've been in this default path of stagnation for such a long period of time that when they take some action, then they feel good about themselves. And that's exactly what happened with me. And the more action I took, and all of these are little small things, right? Like little tweaks, structures, little implementation of strategies that I talked about with him, the better I felt. And I got addicted to it, right? I got addicted to this idea of the deliberate life. And things changed for me, right? Like externally, I was still sort of doing the same for a little bit because I hadn't exactly worked out from a career perspective what I wanted to do. But internally, I was transformed. Internally, I was completely different. I had much better positive outlook on life. I was obviously taking lots more deliberate action to get to where I wanted to get to. So it felt good. And a couple of years down the line, like I started doing a coaching course because I wanted to do it. And it wasn't necessarily to build a business off the back of it, but like when I got into conversation with lots of my friends, especially guys at that time, and shared what I was feeling, and I realized that it wasn't just me that was feeling this. It was a common sort of theme, and that I could help them do that. So I helped them as friends. I helped some of them as clients, and I felt good helping them. So I started building the business from then. And at the same time that I was, training to be a coach, I didn't quite get through the training when we had our first daughter, Pearl. And anyone that has kids, and this isn't a judgment on people that don't, you don't really understand what it's like having kids until you actually have kids. All those cliches are ridiculously true. That's, I suppose, why they're cliches, right? But you can read all the parenting books, you can do all of that shit, but really you have to get in the trenches, right? Like you have to be playing the game to understand how to play the game. So the first few months of me having Pearl, like I took some time off, but when I went back to work, when I went back to building my business alongside when I went back to work and I was building my coaching business alongside my production company at the time, I found it really difficult. I ended up slipping back into a lot of default behaviors. So performing to unconscious expectations of what I thought a dad should be, without really deliberately thinking about what my version of a dad would be, right? Like what my version of success as a dad and as a man would be in that space. Like I probably stopped seeing friends. I didn't exercise as much. I showed up for her, but I was never at my best because I was sacrificing myself all the time. And I remember jumping off calls or just after calls with coaching clients, then hearing the baby cry and helping Jess in the middle of the day. And I kept coming out and doing all this, changing the nappy in the middle of the day. But what that resulted in is me working later, right? So instead of finishing at 5, I was finishing at 6 or 6:30. Or I was on my emails when I was supposed to be looking after the baby. And it got to the point where my wife, Jess, was like, what the fuck are you doing? Stop coming out during the daytime to help all the time. Like, I'd rather you finish at 5 o'clock and, you know, you help me with Pearl then rather than, you know, you coming out constantly during the day. Like, this is not helping me. And it created all these standards and expectations in my mind of what a dad should be that I didn't actually stop to have that conversation with Jess about what she wanted as well. So I'd slipped into this sort of deliberate path again. And I had to snap myself out of it. I had to stop sacrificing myself because I wasn't able to show up as the man and dad I wanted to be. I needed to be more deliberately selfish is the term that I coined for this. So rather than, you know, sacrificing yourself constantly because that's the right thing to do, actually, you know, being clear on what I want, prioritizing myself, making sure I have time for me. Because if I feel good, if I'm getting what I need, then I can show up as my best for everything and everyone that matters, including my wife, including myself, including my kids. And like that whole default versus deliberate, as I lived it, right, and as I had more conversations with lots of dads, I saw it was such a common thread that so many dads, including myself, got stuck in default mode. They thought that being a dad of young children, this is just the way it has to be. I'm going to be completely slammed all the time. I'm going to have no time for myself. My relationships with my mates will have to take bottom priority. I will squeeze in my gym sessions when I can. I need to get home to look after the kids at this time or else my wife will be annoyed. I need to make sure that she has time for her over time for me. I feel overwhelmed, stressed. There's so many plates spinning. Like all of these things, all of these narratives that were in my head were in lots of other dads' head, right? I was here and it was almost like I was talking to a mirror a lot of the time. Sorry, I'll say that in English. A mirror a lot of the time. But what I'd proven to myself that there was another way, right? Like there was a way to live more deliberately. And it didn't just have to be, I put my life on pause until the kids are 20. There was a way to invest 100% in moments and creating those moments now. Plus also, you know, invest in your time for the future also, right? Like getting short-term gains plus also long-term gains. And it was all around being really deliberate and conscious with how you're living your life. Like instead of letting stuff just drift, instead of letting the default life take over and letting that overwhelm and the busyness of life just pass you by and then you don't really know what's happening a year later, actually stopping, pausing, reflecting and going, is the path that I'm on now one that I've actually chosen? Or is this just an unconscious drift? Because if this is just an unconscious drift, I'm going to get 5, 10, 15 years down the line and I'm going to live this default life and I'm not going to be able to maximize my potential as a dad, most importantly, but also like I'm ambitious in my work, in my business, in my relationships, right? And also with myself and with my health. I don't want to park all of that just because I've become a dad. Like, I want to make sure that there's space, time, energy for all of that. I want to craft my version of what a successful, deliberate life looks like. And you need to pause and think about what that is, right? So I've worked with coaches my whole time since I got my first coach with Nejmi. And I've been able to do that. Like, I've been able to be really clear on what success looks like for me, define my standards of how I want to live my life, how I want to show up. And I also know the inputs that make me feel good about myself to be able to do that, to be able to show up for everything and everyone that matters. I've made that switch to go, actually put myself first isn't a selfish thing, right? It's actually for me to show up for others. Like, actually, what's selfish is sacrificing myself constantly, because there's no way that I'll be able to show up as the best person and man that I know that I can if I'm able to do that. And by living deliberately, you have to pause, you have to reflect, you have to think about what you want from your life, what success looks like for you, what your standards are, as I've said. And plus also go, what are the systems, structures, routines that are going to help me do that, right? What's going to aid me to do that? So, like, I was very unorganized before. People used to take the piss out of me all the time. I'd lost passports. I didn't know what day it was. My diary was a joke. But then I saw that, like, my calendar, I almost saw it as a constraint before. I almost saw it as a straitjacket. But that was when I was 25, right? Now when I was 35, when I had some kids, and I was really identifying the things and actions that I wanted to take every week, which helped me show up as a better dad and as a better man. The calendar wasn't a straitjacket anymore. It was a weapon. This calendar was a weapon for me to make sure to enable me to do the things that I want to do every week. So I got organized, right? Now my calendar is very organized. Everything that I want to do in that week is in there. I talk about it with my wife. We've got a shared calendar. We have a cocktail every Sunday night to make sure that we are clear on what's happening in the week ahead. And my calendar frees me now, right? It makes me outsource my motivation, my willpower to it. I don't need to motivate myself to get things done, or don't need to worry about, am I doing the things that I said I was going to do? I know they're in there. So it's a weapon for me now. And also I've worked on my own internal systems, right? Like my mindset, like not letting that default monkey mind, the comparison trap, understanding that I can see things from other people's perspective, like deliberate thinking, I call it, like not letting your default thinking take over, not letting your reactions guide your life. Actually, again, seeing your mind as a tool that you can use. It isn't you, it's a tool that you can use. So I've worked on all of these things, which combine together as tools, as weapons for me to live that deliberate life. So now I don't wake up with overwhelm or guilt or not knowing whether I'm on the right path or not. That whole, 10 years almost, right? Whole 10 years of going to my first job at McCann in the advertising agency thinking, I don't know whether this is right for me. 10 years of career and 10 years of not feeling aligned was completely changed by taking one tiny action, making a choice to live more deliberately and taking lots of deliberate action to go in that pathway. And this isn't about, my life being perfect. It's not by any means. Everything's still growing. But when I look at my life 5 years ago versus now, has everything leveled up? 100%, right? I'm more aligned on the business that I'm building. I enjoy it a lot more. My relationship with my wife is way better. I'm a better friend. I'm a better son. I've obviously just become a dad in the last 3 years. But since 3 years ago when we had Pearl, and now I've got a 6-month-old Lenny as well, like, am I a better dad? Yeah, like 100%, because I'm really deliberate and define what all of those things are. And the amazing thing about a deliberate life versus a default life is there's no cap on it. There's no upside. It's like going to the gym. You can always get fitter. You can always get stronger if you keep working on it and you keep taking those actions and doing the reps all the time. So it's a constant cycle of upside for me. And I feel really aligned, relaxed, calm, excited about the future all the time. And my life isn't perfect by any means. Of course, there's moments of self-doubt, overwhelm, lots of things to do. But when I look at my life from a macro perspective, am I on the pathway to being a deliberate dad, right? I'm a man who is hitting his potential across his work, across his parenting, across having his relationships, across looking after himself and his health. Yeah, 100%. And I've created all of these in practical frameworks and strategies. So if there's anything that I can, of course, help you with to take that first step, to make that decision, I've linked a couple of resources in the comments below, or follow me and send me a message at Deliberate Dad on Instagram or deliberate.dad. You'll be able to get in touch with me. I hope you find this useful. Subscribe to this channel to get more of these episodes. I've been releasing them once a week. And have a great day. Cheers.